So, hello everyone.
Just wait. Yes, you are live.
Yeah, I'm live now. Hello everyone. So I'm glad to virtually meet you for this session about the sixth myth of PAM. And I will just start with a quick introduction of myself. I'm Julian, or Jules. I'm the head of sales engineering at Wallix. Wallix is an identity and access management company with a strong base on privileged access management, which will be the topic which we will cover today. The agenda for this presentation is as follows. First, try to make sure that we all stand on the same ground when talking about the risks of uncontrolled privileges. What do they mean? How should we handle them? How can we make it, in a nutshell, understandable? Then we will identify the myths that we see on this field and the solutions that should be brought to solve this myth or to alleviate the risks that we identify. And then give you a rough outline of what we think is the path to apply a good strategy to build a privileged access management project. But without further ado, let's start with the rest. So when talking about PAM and privilege, I like to use a metaphor which is really simple, which is the vehicle metaphor. Whenever I'm French, so whenever I want to go and buy bread, I will quite surely either walk there or take my bike and my bicycle, because it's simple, right? It's not far. It's something that actually you can do very easily. I don't need a license to drive a bicycle. It's quite unregulated. I mean, if the worst case scenario is that annoy some people if I do something that is not allowed, and everybody can actually ride a bike. So the effect of that, or the let's say the side things around riding a bike, is that if I have an accident, if I hurt myself, I will actually quite probably just hurt myself. It's hard to kill someone with a bicycle. Now, as opposed to that, let's say I want to go and buy furniture, and I can't hold furniture on my bicycle, obviously. So I would quite probably take my car. But to drive a car, you need a license, or you need to have your ability assessed as to whether you can drive a car. You understand that there's the signals, and you understand any regulation that pertains to driving a car. And ultimately, if you do something stupid with the car, we could remove your license. And as an effect of that, it is being monitored. We have some rules or laws that have to be put in place so that people can drive a car safely. And obviously, if I have an accident with my car, if I hit someone, I could actually, yes, kill them. I could kill myself. So this is slightly more dangerous, let's say, than a bicycle in effect. Now let's go a step further, right? I want to travel to Dubai, for instance, and I could drive there by car, but it would quite probably be inefficient. So quite probably take a plane. Now here's the kick there. I don't know if I'm not a pilot. I can pilot a plane. So I would actually need to take a plane, and that would be piloted by someone who actually knows how to do this. This is an activity that is highly coordinated, as in, you have control towers, you have a flight path, you have a lot of constraints on being able to actually pilot the plane. And obviously, it's not everybody that can do it, right? It's restricted, and it will be monitored perpetually, and your ability to pilot a plane would actually be assessed regularly. And obviously, if I'm actually in the plane, it is continuously monitored by the authorities to make sure that I'm on that path, that I'm following the rules and the laws. It is supervised, as in I have a co-pilot. It needs to be there in case if something happens to me, because if something happens to me as a pilot, I will kill hundreds of people, not just myself. So why talk about that, right? If you think about it, this actually straight maps to the privileges. But the bicycle is actually my everyday account. This is the one I use on my computer. It just delivers access to my own data. It will not provide access to something elevated. It is something that if I do harm, I will quite probably only harm myself. This information is restricted to what I can do as an individual. But then if I have, let's say, an Apache or my MySQL account, something that enables me to access some information of my IT system, that will be a bit like the car. I could do some harm. I need to understand what I'm doing when I do that. It's not something that any user could do. And I need, to an extent, a license. And obviously, if I have the root account or the domain admin account, something that is basically giving me every right on the system or on an AD domain, this is something that I could actually bring down the company with. I could delete everything. I could steal all the data that I want, and this is something that has to be heavily monitored. So now let's go down to the myth then. With this context of knowing what the risk of privilege account is, what we quite often see in this industry is a lot of people telling us, yeah, you would not have any issue if you secure your passwords, right? The basics of PAM for a lot of people is to vault the password. The rationale behind that myth is that actually I live in a flat, I have a door, I have a key for that door. If I don't have the key, I can't get in, which is fair enough. But the reason that this is a myth is that a key is an object that I own and I can give to someone, kind of the password. The password is something that I know that I could give to someone. So what will tell me what was done with that key or that password? And the let's say the path to address this issue is very straightforward. In a flat, that will be CCTV. That will be recording who comes in and who does what. And in a system, in an IT system, for PAM especially, this would be recording what is being done. It is useless to protect the perimeter without knowing what is going on within the perimeter. So the full sense of security that is being given by having a password, having a key to my door, has to be alleviated by knowing exactly what is being performed on my IT system, which then I should record. And this is the first myth busted. So we talked about password vaulting, why it should not be the best of ideas to start with vaulting, and rather session management. Now, there's another myth that is quite common, which is if you want a privileged access management solution, the only way for you to have a proper PAM solution is to have an agent-based PAM solution. The rationale behind that is, yeah, so I will install some piece of software on my device. So it's as close as possible. There's no way to be closer than that. And that's why I would get all the information and it's protected on the, let's say, on the premise of the device itself. The reason why this is a myth, right, is at first, what if someone disables that agent? How can I ensure that? So first question, how can I update it? How can I make sure that it stays up? What is the cost of that? Deploying this agent, maintaining it on a large installation? And also, what will I do with devices where I can't install an agent, like a firewall or a router, things like that? So it brings more questions than it actually attempts to solve. And this is why, to address this kind of situation, to make sure that we cover all bases, having a solution which is based on the man-in-the-middle kind of technology, which would sit between the user and the target, and not rely on anything third party, let's say like an agent, it enables the users first to seamlessly go through the solution, but also alleviates the issue of having to install, to maintain, and to basically handle all these agents everywhere, which obviously will drive the TCO higher than what it would be if you didn't have an agent. So this is the second myth busted. So we've seen vaulting, we've seen agent. Now the question is, okay, Jules, I've listened to you. I've set up session recordings. as you've suggested. So I've set up my CCTV. I know what is going on. I have my videos. Yeah, I'm compliant with all my regulations and whatnot. Nobody can look for something in my solution that is not compliant. The rationale behind that is, yeah, it sounds kind of probable. If I can replay all the activity, if I can know what Jules did on the very given day, on the very given system, I could prove anything. Yeah, but the problem behind that is, what if my session was very long? What if Jules is just one admin among thousands or hundreds more probably? How can I find this needle in haystack? How can I make the data, the information that I've stored, speak to me in a way that I will be able to, well, actually sift through, right? The point of having information, the point of knowing auditing is not just to build auditing. The point is to be able to use that audit trail to deduce information, to do root cause analysis, to actually solve an issue. So the way to address that is very simple. The video is just a way to conveniently understand what is going on for a human being. So it's nice to have, yes, but eventually what an auditor will look for is not videos. It will look for metadata. It will look for information that is the actual trail is looking for. So let's say someone launched a very specific software. You want to know that this software has been launched. So we quite probably look for the name of the software. Or if an information has been displayed on screen somewhere, you like to look for this information because you know there was a leak and you want to see who's seen it. You cannot fill 1,000 auditors to do that. They will quite probably look for the information, try to build some kind of funnel for the information, and then they will look at the videos to better understand. But obviously, just storing videos is not enough. And this is why this is the third myth busted. So again, vaulting, agent, recording videos. Now, okay, again, Jules, I've listened to you. I've done everything. Everything is working fine. And all my accounts are now under the privileged access management solution. So I'm fine. I'm fine. Yes, but no. No, because let's assume that you go through the PAM solution and you end up having a root account because you've entitled to have this root account. What will you do with it? Can you do some harm before you are being caught? How could we actually address that? Right? This is exactly the point. Root is a thermonuclear device. The misuses that are being done and are part of the issue. Right? There's not only misuses. There could also be some illegitimate user, malicious user, trying to access your system, getting hold of the password of one of your users, and ended up accessing root. So there's a need for a perimeter within the perimeter, and the way to address that is through what we call PEDM solutions, that is Privilege Elevation and Delegation Management, which would apply, as some speakers spoke about earlier, the principle of least privilege. So to make sure that whenever I need something as my user, I will just in time be able to elevate my privileges to the right type of access for the right type of task at the right type of time. If I have outstanding accesses every day, every time, even via my PAM solution, it's not enough because the misuse is, or the malicious usage is still a potentiality. So deploy a PDM solution to avoid getting into the pitfall of that myth. Fifth myth, and again, vaulting, agent, recording, PDM. Now, we are going through a shift. We've been going through a shift for some years now to DevOps. And quite often we see that people think it's too cumbersome for DevOps. To that point, I mean, securing privileges also. To that point, I will remind you of the story of Uber, who actually got hacked and lost some data got leaked about personal information about the customers because of DevOps, because someone in one of his crypto files actually had a password and out of mistake committed it on source repository. And that led to losing or leaking the information. So the rationale behind that myth, that PAM is too cumbersome, is that DevOps needs to be an agile kind of thing. We need to go fast. We need to do continuous integration. So we don't want to have something that will sit between us and the actual system we are trying to integrate, because this will slow us down. The reason why this is a myth, as I was saying, Uber is one good thing. The security is often perceived as a showstopper, because it kind of adds a layer of complexity for users, while it should be perceived as an enabler. So whenever looking for solution to secure DevOps, you need to look for PAM solution with a strong application-to-application strategy, something which will integrate with the technology you're using. For instance, it could be Ansible, it could be Terraform, it could be custom script if you want. But this is key whenever doing CI/CD. You need to put these accounts under the solution, under the PAM solution, and you need to handle the change management for your users, your developers, between when they have nothing to the point where they're secured and it's integrated in the way they work. And this is the first step. So again, vaulting, agent, recording, just ran out DevOps and PEDM before. Now let's say, again, listen to every of your advice, Jules. It's excellent, it's working fine. Given entitlements to the right people, nothing can go through that is not supposed to happen. Yeah, but no. Building entitlements, is this really covering for all cases, all bases? Is this something that will actually happen for every use case? Let's say, right, I'm a third party, I can potentially have access to something, but someone needs to approve. So is this really having the right to access, or is this something that will be conditional to something external? Could be a ticket, could be a manual approval, could be an access to a third-party system. This is typically the type of access that we do just in time, the type of access that prevents you from having standing privileges, and where you will actually, in the PAM solution, interact with your IT ecosystem. Could be an ITSM solution, it could be any other thing that you are using on a day-to-day basis, but to handle all these corner cases that will quite probably be more important than you think. I say corner cases because there are usually exceptions when you want approval, but there's a really good reason why you want exception and approval. It's because the access is very sensitive. So don't forget that giving access to the entitled users and making sure that they have access does not cover all cases. You need to take into account the fact that some actors and some users in your system will require an extra step. It could also be MFA, it could be many things, but eventually you cannot just give the right and say they are entitled to, there will be exceptions. And this is the sixth myth busted. So now that we said everything there, we've talked about the myth, we've talked about why there are myths and the rationale behind that, and how we could solve that. What is interesting is how would I actually put things in order so that I would start from nothing. This is my data center, let's say on screen, or this is my bank, whatever you want. And I want to make sure that I deploy a PAM solution in the right way that will enable me to do everything to bring me to value early in the process, to prove to my stakeholders that it brings what it's supposed to. So let's start with that, right? I have nothing. So the first thing, if you remember the first myth, you would set up CCTV. You would set up a thing called session management and recording. There will be a system that would sit between the users and the targets as a man-in-the-middle solution that would actually record what is being done. To do that first, will provide you with an audit trail, will provide you with information that you did not have before as to what is done. And what is being done is strategical in that case, because you can prove things, you can replay mistakes, you can even use that as training purposes, as in, this is how you update the server, This is how you deploy a new application. So it's being used for a lot of things. So first step, session management. Second step, now that we actually know what is being done, let's set up this perimeter. And this perimeter is the door. So my data center now is being under CCTV, but I will set up a door. This door has a key. It's password vaulting, very simple. So I need something I know, my password, to actually get in the door. So not only I'm being recorded, but I can't get in as easily. And quite probably you put security policies to, for instance, rotate the password regularly to make sure that it's not just password 123, right? Because that would be a problem in of itself. Fourth step. Now, okay, I have something I own, which is my password, or something I know rather. I'm being recorded, but there's nothing preventing me from lending my key to someone else. And then via the auditing, I could potentially know that this is someone else, but it will be too late. So now the question is to add this layer of multi-factor authentication, which is represented here by a fingerprint icon, saying not only have something I know, the password, but I also have something I own or I am in the case of biometrics. So I will ask for fingerprints to ensure the identity and the rightful identity of the user connecting to the system. So to this point, point 4, I know what is being done. Nobody can get in without a password. And I know who's trying to use that password. And I know it's one person. Now the question is, okay, I'm putting my fingerprint, getting in, I know the password, I have the key. Great, I'm inside. Now I decide to set fire to the building. Because I'm inside, right? And I have Kindle and I have matches. Obviously, this is a big problem. This is why the last and final step would be to hire a guard. So in this metaphor, the guard will be there sitting and watching you and making sure that you are only doing what you're supposed to. And that would map to the method and the strategy represented to the PDM strategy. So you define some rules to say that a person with this type of shape or form, entitlement, if you prefer, is only entitled to perform this type or that type of action. So that way, when you have this final step, you know who's doing what, you know when they're doing it, you know they're entitled to do it, you are sure of their identity, but you're also sure that whatever they try to do is done according to the rules you preemptively define, and that nothing can be done to go around. So this is, to us, Wallix, the path to actually go from nothing to fully secured PAM solution. And take this opportunity to say, obviously, the presentation part is finished and we'll go to the questions if there are any, but you can reach out to us and to myself or to Ines, whose contact, I guess, will be given later, but to ask for questions or presentation on this presentation as well, or on our strategy to come from nothing to fully deployed PAM solution. So any questions?
Thank you so much, Julian, for such a wonderful presentation. And these 6 months, I think this is very new for us. In fact, for me, it's very new for us. The presentation that you have given on this topic, it's quite different, quite innovative, and I hope that this will add value for my all attendees. I will request all the attendees of the conference, if they have any questions, kindly do they ask on the main chat. Julian is here to answer your all questions. Okay. And now after that, we will be proceeding towards our expo, and there our 4 companies are waiting for you. And now you need to move and go for the exhibition and just visit their exhibition profile. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Julian, for such a wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.